Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today I have here my friend Adriel. And Adriel is a good friend who lives in Texas. So, Adriel,
Yep.
welcome to the show.
Thank you, Samir. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, well, I know you. We've talked, but tell everyone else who you are, where you come from.
Right. So my name is Adriel Hsu. I'm from California, born and raised, but I live out in the Houston area right now. I've been doing real estate since 2016 when I got to Texas. I do single family and multifamily and commercial real estate. Just whatever makes money is kind of I'm open to. So yeah, I've been doing real estate for 6 years now, and it's been a great journey. It's allowed me to quit my job, so it's been great.
Love it. I'm sure a lot will want to know how you did that, right? Just
Right.
transitioning over from your full-time job to full-time real estate. That's impressive. So congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so 6 years, right? So your journey in real estate? I mean, did that kind of happen in California, or did it happen when you kind of moved to Texas?
No, so it only happened when I moved to Texas. I kind of graduated college, but I had a last semester of co-op or internship that I was doing south of Houston, and that's when I kind of also looking at what else can I do besides the regular W-2 stuff, right? I looked at e-commerce and everything, but real estate was just the most simple in terms of the concept, right? Buy something for this price, put some money into it, and it's worth this much money. It was the most easy to understand concept, so that's what I kind of gravitated towards. And I found a mentor in 2015 just to pick his brain a little bit. And in 2016, I just took action, listened to a lot of bigger pockets, stuff like that, and just started marketing for off-market deals, and just been doing that ever since 2016.
Amazing, amazing. I wonder what that mentor said to kind of get you to to kick you into action like that quickly.
Oh, well, I mean, I actually found him on Instagram, saw he was doing real estate, and I was just like curious of what he was doing. And I already listened to a little bit of Bigger Pockets at that point. I just met up with him. He just said, yeah, you just got to take action if you want to get stuff done. So I just kept educating on Bigger Pockets, and then just kept trial and error, right? Testing out what would
Yeah.
happen, but just taking some sort of action to make progress.
Amazing, amazing, and that's something that's so important. And something you said there was that real estate is easy to understand, right? Like a lot of
Right,
people overcomplicate things, and real estate's been around for thousands of years, and it's one of those things that just is tried and true. It's easy, right? It's just
right,
finding something, buying it, fixing it up, and now it's worth this, right? And so
right.
it's yeah. I personally am one of those who just like overcomplicates, and so it's just kind of getting out of that. And I
Right.
mean, so what kind of like getting into it look like, right? Like, did you go and just buy this big apartment building, or what did that look like?
Right. No, so I mean, right, bigger pockets, they like to preach BRRR a lot, right? The BRRR method. Um, my mentor was doing flipping, but I was listening to bigger pockets, and I soaked all it up. So okay, let me find something to BRRR, which is kind of almost the same as flipping on the first half, right? You still gotta find it cheap and renovate it. It's just selling it versus refinancing it. So it all boiled down to finding the deal. So that's what I did. I started doing direct mail in 2016, right? Cold calling and texting wasn't really a thing yet in 2016, mainly because there weren't the systems yet to support it on the internet. Skip tracing was back then, I think, still only stuck like LexisNexis and like TLO, and you have to have exclusive memberships for that stuff. There wasn't, batch skip tracing back then. So I just did direct mail. I was sending out letters, just pulled a list source list, right? Just what they tell you on bigger pockets, pull a equity list or something, and just trial and error. I was sending out letters and getting calls in, and just figuring it out as I went, right? And it took about 6 months before I got my first deal. But even though was spending money on marketing for 6 months straight, I ended up buying my first deal from a wholesaler.
Really
So
funny.
right, right. So it's kind of like, wow, that was pointless, but it's not, right? Because it gets you mentally more comfortable with the process, and just going to networking events. I was in a pretty smaller city, smaller town. There wasn't much networking, but just whatever there was, right? It's just at that stage for someone that's starting out, is all knowledge and education at that point. So that's what I was doing.
100%. Yeah. And then, connecting with people, if you find out what they're doing, right? Like where are
Right.
they getting deals and what's their strategies, and I think it's a great approach. It's just start changing your strategy, start thinking about things in a different way, right?
Right.
And direct mail allows you to do that, and rather than just going on Zillow and looking where everybody else is looking, right? So you're
Right.
taking a different approach. You're taking to something that's in your control and what you can do. So what that first deal look like? Like was it a home run already? Was it all fixed up? How did it
No, it
look?
was actually a full gut rehab. So my first deal I bought, it just needed everything, right? You could almost say it was a tear down at that point. But I I can't remember the exact. I think I got it for $17,000 was the price I got it for.
Okay.
And what made me just buy it was I looked on the county appraisal, and just the land value of the property was at like 25,000. So I figured, all right, can't really go wrong if I'm buying the property for less than what the land is worth, right? So that's why I kind of just bit the bullet and bought the deal from the wholesaler. He actually got it for 7,000, and he made $10,000 selling it to me for 17. But it's, I guess, a good way to start learning. It's just you learn what everything costs, right? You did a full gut rehab from foundation, plumbing, AC, roof, everything was brand new. And it was stressful when you first signed the contract because you see such a rundown house and you have no knowledge and no experience that it gets a little scary. So basically, I spent quite a bit renovating it, probably like $80,000, right? Making mistakes here and there on the first renovation, obviously. But ended up doing the BRRRR method because that's what I was listening to every day from Bigger Pockets. And when I started doing the actual property management side, doing lease ups and showings, that's when I'm like, damn, it's not worth all this headache for maybe $100 a month of cash flow, right? Because I was self-managing. I figured didn't need property management for just one house. But it's a learning curve. You learn that people will flake on showings. They'll tell you, "Yeah, I'm coming to see the house," and they will never show up. Just stuff like that, right? Just cutting your teeth. You have to learn it sometimes just through experience. So yeah, BRRRR refinanced it out. Was able to basically get, I said, all my money out almost on the BRRRR, and then just ended up being a rental. So that's how the first deal got started. But it gives you the mental comfort that, it's not that scary to do the next deal and the next deal, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's just getting on base, right? It's not maybe a home run, but it gets you started and it gets you going. And I'm guessing it didn't make you rich overnight, right? It was a
No.
process.
Right.
So like that whole rehab, right? Like once you sign on that dotted line, it's real, right? You just inherited like this whole, big project. So did you have a construction background in the past? Like, was it something that, like you were already comfortable with, or how did you get comfortable?
No, I didn't have any construction background. Luckily, my mentor was able to refer me, some subcontractors, right, like a granite guy, stuff like that. But really, no, it was just I actually had paid a guy from one of the local meetup groups to kind of help project manage it. I mean, he hired shitty contractors, but it kind of helped learn the steps at least, right? Foundation has to be done first, and then the plumbing, electrical, AC, then sheetrock. So learning the process along the way. So it was a huge learning curve. And there's obviously Google and stuff to show you. And building a house isn't rocket science. It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, it was just, you had to just learn. You have to make phone calls, get bids from contractors, and just kind of figure out how to do it.
Yeah, and then it forces you to, right? So then you have
Right.
to learn, because otherwise what are you gonna do, right? So
Right.
and nice. So do you still own that house today, or what
No.
happened?
So what happened was I got the first tenant in there that ended up moving out in like 2 months because they got relocated for work. And then I got next thing I got, I did it as a rent to own. Rent to own is illegal in Texas, so it's technically a right of first refusal,
Mhm.
where they have the first dibs to basically buy the house if you wanted to sell it. But I wasn't going to sell it to anyone else. But it was just an older couple, just had bad credit score, but they put 7,000 non-refundable down payment, and then they're renting it for like $1,250 a month. And they rented it since 2016. I'd say 2017, like January or February 2017, all the way until last summer, they finally bought the house. So yeah, so it worked out. So
Awesome.
I made rental income. They're, your dream tenants and never contact you for anything. They've kept it well kept, always paid on time. And then they finally were able to buy it. And they won too because they locked in the price at back in 2017. And this area wasn't like, crazy appreciation, but definitely appreciated maybe $10,000 to $20,000, right? So they were, yeah. So I ended up selling it to them, and I made a decent profit. Um, so can't complain.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. I mean, was that always your goal? Like when you first got that one, right? That you were gonna maybe just do like that right of first refusal, or kind of like the lease option, if you will, in different terms.
Not really, because I was, had a normal tenant in there to begin with, but then I kind of realized that, I read like, okay, do a rent to own, they're going to take care of it better. It's their house. They have more skin in the game, putting out a $7,000 deposit, down payment, non-refundable. And I lucked out. I mean, I've heard, bad stories as well, but kind of you take them out, you still get that $7,000, which some people abuse. That's why the Frank Dodd Act was passed in 2010. And that's why they made it illegal. But I just wanted someone that wasn't going to leave in a few months again or tear up the property, just because I didn't want to have to deal with the property. Because I still have
Yeah,
a full-time job. Right. So yeah.
right. And after that full rehab, right, you're like, I'm not trying to put any more money into this thing.
Right.
Okay,
So
nice, nice.
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sure you've learned a ton in that experience, but what's like one takeaway from that deal or that property that you like, stuck with you?
Well, that was kind of the eye opener on, man, it's not worth $100 a month cash flow to do all this work. And that's when I pivoted to mainly flipping and wholesaling. I was really doing flipping. I didn't do wholesaling the first few years, but mainly flipping. And okay, I need to get into multifamily where there's more scale and it's worth it, right? So that was kind of the main takeaways to help me give me more direction on what I wanted to do, versus when I just was open to everything.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and now that's kind of where your focus lies these days, right? Is like more on
Right,
the multifamily, more doors, more scalability, right? So,
right,
yeah, like that's a great way to kind of get into that space. Is you got to do a proof of concept almost, right? So,
right.
so what's that look like now? What are you kind of working on these days in your in your
Yeah.
investments?
Well, right now it's a very weird market, right? It's a very up in the air of what's going on, right? Every month it's kind of like the rates have gone up this month, just yesterday or today, right? It's gone up. So we'll see what the ramifications are this upcoming month on how sales are going to be. But we're just being very conservative right now on everything. And in terms of ongoing projects, I do have about 4 flips going on, and then one Airbnb is getting ready to go live in a week, and I already have another Airbnb that's been running. It's kind of on autopilot. So no, that's the plan. 2 of these other flips are gonna. All my flips are kind of full gut rehabs. So the 2 I have in Houston are going to be turned into Airbnbs. Well, we might sell one. It just depends on how the market shakes out when this finishes in a few months. And then a couple 2 in some surrounding areas are going to be ready to sell. So we're still doing, flips, but we're a lot more cautious on our numbers, because you can't really use sales comps the past 6 months anymore, because you just, if the rates are going up and the prices are going down now. So it's a little hesitant, just be more conservative while your stuff. And then multifamily, I've kind of refinanced out 2 of them recently. So I'm kind of locked in for now at decent rates, just to ride out the next 3, 4, 5 years if rates have to cycle again. So it's kind of a hold pattern right now, but still acquiring cautiously, let's say.
Yeah, that seems to be the tail right now, right? It's just because so much uncertainty, and with Feds announcing things like, today or tomorrow, it's one of those where people are being treading pretty lightly, because I don't
Right,
think a lot of people expected rates to do what they did so soon, right? Like everyone
right,
knew they were going to go up, but maybe not at this degree.
right.
So no, nice. Okay, so in the space though, like with multifamily, right, and the bigger deals, are you kind of using a similar strategy, like the BRRRR strategy in that bigger space, or what's kind of your main focus there?
I mean, that's ideal for me. I prefer a full gut rehab on an apartment complex because I know I'm going to hold it. I'm not really looking to flip them after a year or two. So I'd rather have everything maintenance free, right? So I prefer it to be a heavy gut, full gut, everything new, or it be like 1990s five built and newer, just so I don't have to deal with the headaches I'm dealing with now on some 60s and 70s properties. It's just not worth the headache.
You
So,
mean a 60s and 70s property is not the same as a 2000 build?
right. So I've cut my teeth on the 60s and 70s. I mean, right now, just plumbing issues left and right on one of my. It's actually an 83 built building, but still, there's plumbing issues. It's damn near impossible to fix some of these major plumbing issues when there's tenants living there because you're cutting out whole walls in their bathroom. I mean, I had to do it because I had to fix it, but it's just it can cause tenants to move out, and I've seen that happen. I had great tenants leave just because they were sick of having the sheetrock cut to fix the tenants above drain pipe. So, you know, I mean, that's why I like the full gut rehab. I mean, that's not to say I won't take a deal. It's a 70s built. It's a very good price, but I'm going to price in pretty big CapEx numbers that most people don't, which kind of kills a lot of deals.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, you kind of have to, right? I think a lot of people right now are buying on pro forma or what could be, but that's you're taking a lot of risk
Right.
to you know what I mean? Like if you're not factoring in your profit or the cost to do it, I mean, these things can get really expensive, especially when you start having to dig in and finding source of the issues like plumbing or electrical or whatever, water. So it can get really expensive.
Yeah.
So I like the approach of going like full gut job. Has that like changed at all since the market's changing? Like, are you still looking for full gut jobs, or are you now looking for a different type of product?
Um, I'd still be open to full gut jobs. It's going to be risky, right? Because you don't know what the rates will be when you're done with the renovations. But it's just back to the fundamentals, right? If it's a good area, good schools, desirable area of job growth and population growth, then I mean, what we're seeing now with the home prices is it's cheaper to rent really than to buy a house. So you're not really going to be losing any renter pools right now. So it's actually still pretty strong for multifamily in terms of rents. I mean, they're not going to grow as fast as they've grown the past few years, but they'll still stay pretty stable. So I still would do a full gut because I know I'm going to be keeping it. If I'm looking for like a value add, light value add kind of turnaround, then I would want something like 2010 built that's just cosmetically not quartz, not super nice, updates. And I'd go in, repaint, recessed lights, quartz, make it high end. I like those a lot as well because you can tell when a house is mid 2000s built, right? They got that same beige brownish granite. They got the same
Vinyl.
carpet. Like it's just cosmetics. It's nothing wrong with anything else. So that's kind of
Yeah.
my. That's kind of like the two opposite ends, right? Like I either want to do everything myself, or I just want it to be cosmetic.
Right. And knowing that is so important, right? It's just like you can do both. You just know, or
Right.
either one, but like, like I personally don't do full gut jobs, but that's
Right.
just mostly because of like the W-2 and not can't be there on site. So,
Right.
like knowing where your boundaries and your lanes are right now is huge. So nice, nice. So I mean you just kind of finished one right now, right? I think we were talking about
Right.
that last time is a pretty big value add. You wanna maybe give some numbers or talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah. If I remember off the top of my head, a partner actually brought this deal to me because he had found the deal, but he had no experience in multifamily. So I looked at the deal and I liked the location. The thing that sold me was the location, right? It was surrounded by, well, in Houston, we call them townhomes. So not really, they're individual homes, but they're like skinny and really tall. So it's cram them on the lots. But it was surrounded by new build luxury townhomes like that. So I knew it was a great location. It was close to downtown, all those things that checked the box, right? So that was just from there, I was kind of sold already. And we got it for $875,000 for 20 units. So what is that, like 40 something a door? Yeah, about 40,
Yeah.
43 a door. Ended up adding a studio, probably illegally, but took an old laundry room and made a 395 square foot studio. I mean, it has a full kitchen and full bathroom. So you set up, be creative, right? Now you have 21 units, not 20, and that affects everything in terms of your valuation, your NOI. So it's just being creative to find ways to add value besides the generic raise the rents. And yeah, so there was fire damage on one corner because you can walk in and you can see the sky. You know, there was holes in the ceiling, major frame damage, which you know, it's okay for me. I like that. Seller was kind of hard to deal with. Had to really end up doing a lawsuit to get him to sell because I'm sure he got higher offers afterwards for the property, which is standard. That's what happens.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Right. But no, about say 6 of the units were pretty decent on one building, and the rest of them were just gut rehab. And yeah, went in, took about a year to do a full gut rehab on 14, 15 of the units. And we also, you know, turned over because it was not the best tenant base. It was more of Class C tenant base, and we're trying to upgrade to a Class B. So there were some turnovers, some evictions, and had to renovate the other units as well. So we ended up renovating about 17 units while we thought we were just going to renovate 14. But no, it's just, you just have to get stuff for cheap. It's, I mean, I had that experience from flipping, right? I had cheap suppliers for cabinets, quartz, appliances, all that stuff. Labor was the only big variable in the whole process, really. But no, I mean, able to get the rehab done for I think $650,000 to $675,000, and then we did a refinance with Freddie Mac, small balance loan, and they appraised it out at 3.3 million, and they gave us I think 2 million was the loan amount. So about 60% loan to value, or just under 60% loan to value. Just to be conservative right now. You don't want to be pulling out too much. And yeah, so now we've got all our money back out, no money out of pocket, plus a little bit extra, right? And it's fully occupied. Just did an eviction last week, but they appealed the eviction. So that's probably going to be a nightmare to drag on. But it's just, you know, now that it's fully stabilized, the 6 units that we never really renovated with the existing tenants, now it's time to turn those over and bring them to market rents because they're, you know, $300, $400, $500 below market right now. And that's going to make a big difference on just juicing your property for max returns.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's before you fix up those units, right? So
Right.
the value of the property is actually going to be even more afterwards.
We'll see with interest rates going up, right? Your
Right.
property value kind of goes down.
Right. We'll see where we are, right, by the time that's over.
Right.
But that's amazing, man. That's a huge renovation, and I'm sure it looks amazing now. But it wouldn't be there without your background where you started, right?
Right.
So that's really just a testament. I mean, when you first started, did you think you'd be at this level? Like, you know, taking on these kind of massive projects like this, or, you know, full guts on this scale?
Kind of yes and no, because I knew from the start, I was like, man, I don't want to do single family anymore. I want to do some bigger stuff, right? But of course, I didn't think I'd be doing a full gut rehab, because the first 2 that I bought were stabilized properties. It's just mismanaged, under market rents. They're typical value add, right? I think both were at 95% plus occupancy when I bought it, and had no major deferred maintenance. They're all very clean properties. So I just got it at a very cheap price. The sellers just didn't know the market, or they were looking to retire. Really, both were looking to retire. They're both very mom and pop run. So this is my first time actually doing what I did, right? And it's, yeah, so I'd say I kind of was expecting and kind of wasn't at the same time. So just, if an opportunity presents itself, you have to be open to taking advantage of it.
100%. Yeah. And knowing where you want to go, right? Like seeing, hey, I want to be in the multifamily space, like, and then just working and finding ways to get there, right? Because oftentimes so many people just, you get shiny object syndrome, right? You're like, I want to do this today and I want to do this tomorrow. And it's like,
Right.
you know, I mean, like, which is fine, but it's also like having a goal, being like, hey, I want to be there one day, allows you to take steps to get there, right? So yeah.
And you might stumble into something, right? So for me, I never really thought about doing Airbnb, but last year I had a flip on the north side of Houston that kind of went over budget, right? Because I didn't have my main contractors with me, and I kind of over renovated for the area. It's an up and coming area, but everything was brand new. So I was like, man, what if I just did an Airbnb? Because it's a nice, it looks real nice now, right? Like it's too nice for the neighborhood. But it's kind of in an area where a local person would never think to do an Airbnb. I think multiple people told me, like, why would you put an Airbnb there? There's nothing there. And there was no Airbnb comps in the area, but I just said, well, like, if I just make the property stand out in terms of decor and furnishing, it's not that far from downtown. It's just not where people would think you would stay, like within 5 to 10 minutes kind of thing, right? For an Airbnb. And I just said, I'm just gonna run it as Airbnb, and it worked out. It's kind of an advantage because it's not as nice of a neighborhood. My property taxes and insurance are a lot lower than if you're trying to buy by downtown. But I'm getting almost the same prices as those people are getting on their nightly rates. So you're getting that arbitrage, right? So yeah, so like I never thought I'd do Airbnb, but then now I have 1 and 3 coming online after the rehabs, right? It's just, you just gotta be open to testing things out. I never thought I would do new construction, but I knew I wanted to move to a part of Houston, right? Closer to downtown. But I knew I wasn't gonna pay a retail price on a house. And my previous 2 homesteads, I bought them, fixed them up to live in them. But I've just learned that stuff just goes bad in Houston. New construction is just the better way to go, because we have foundation problems in Houston. Our soil is bad. So even after 2 years to do foundation work, your foundation's back to being wobbly. There's mold issues with humidity, even if you renovate, right? It's because it's still an old house, right? Even if you renovate it properly. So I said, hey, I want to live in this by downtown, but I need to build me a house or buy a new construction. But I wasn't going to pay market value, and you can't really get a discount on a new construction home like you can on the fixer uppers. So I ended up getting land, and I'm building 4 homes on the land to live in one of them and sell out the other 3 to be basically out of pocket zero on my new house. So
amazing. That's
right.
like these are the things that you wouldn't learn on
Right.
Zillow or something, right? Like you got to just do it or connect with somebody that's doing it, right? Like you found a mentor, somebody else is watching this, if you're interested, like in Houston, hit up Adriel, right? Like he's
Right.
clearly has experience, he's doing a lot of things, and like these are the things that you need to know before you go into a market. So
Right.
I'm excited for that, dude. Ground up construction, that's going to be great. And I like the strategy. You're going to be net zero. Like that's amazing.
It's always a learning curve, right? When you jump to something new, like so many issues, right? I bought the lot, didn't know there was no sewer lines on the lot. So that was like an extra 50 grand just to add run the city of Houston sewer line to my property to have sewer. Stuff like that. You're not going to ever know doing a flip because the house always has sewer. It's been built there, right? So and then finding certain builders, finding things, it's almost like starting over from scratch, but not really. So I can see what people were kind of hesitant to do something new, because it's like, dang, I got to relearn how to do this whole new process, right? So, but it comes from need. I need a house close to downtown, and I don't want to buy an old house and fix it up, because I've done that in my past 2 houses, and yes, they're beautiful, full gut rehouse, but there's still issues with the house. So I'm like, I'm just gonna build a brand new house and have no issues, kind of thing.
There we go.
Right.
I'd love to see that, man. Like once it's done, like I think it's gonna look amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be exciting. So when you got started, like to get to the point where you are now and doing these things, did you have any kind of like limiting beliefs that you had to overcome? Or, like through that time, there's so many things, at least that we have to overcome mindset wise. So was there anything like that for you?
I'm trying to think right now. I mean, I started pretty young. I mean, but nowadays with social media, these kids are starting even younger now, right? 18, 19, you're seeing people wholesale flip nowadays. But I started in 2016, I was 24, I think, when I started. But, I look younger than I am, especially back then. So sometimes people won't kind of take me seriously. Sometimes sellers wouldn't take me seriously. It never affected my belief, right? Because I knew I could close the deal, but it's just something I had to deal with sometimes, right? It's like, I tell them I'm buying their house cash, and they see me looking like I'm 18 years old. Like, this guy isn't going to buy my house cash, kind of thing. So it wasn't really a limiting belief within me, but it was a hindrance to me getting some deals sometimes, was having to prove I can actually close the deal. In terms of limiting belief, it wasn't much, because when you follow read on Bigger Pockets and see people doing it, you realize, okay, it's pretty achievable. You just have to follow these steps, right? So that's just the mindset I would recommend is if you see someone you know doing it, it's, why can't you do it kind of thing.
100%. Yeah. And align yourself with that person, right? If and ask them, add value and see what they know.
Right.
Right. So that's amazing, man. Yeah. And I know what you mean. Starting young is like people look at you and are like, no, I don't think so.
Right.
So especially when you get into the multifamily space, right? They're like,
Right.
you really want to take down this $10 million building? Or how,
Right.
like, who are you? So
Right.
so yeah, it is a thing, but you can overcome it. So that's amazing.
Right.
So what's next for you this year? It sounds like you have like ground up construction project and a few Airbnbs coming live. Like, what else you kind of doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still always marketing, right? The machine's always running for single family and land deals. The new construction will probably take up the rest of the year, should finish about December. We've did dirt work last week. We're doing some plumbing stuff. So, I mean, I have a builder, so that'll take a huge load off, but I'm doing some pretty custom things to some of the houses. So it's going to need some hands-on attention to make them look the way I want them to look, kind of thing. But no, I mean, the Airbnbs, once they're up and running, it's kind of hands off at this point. It's just finding more buy and holds, whether as Airbnb or as multifamily and more flips. Right now, we're trying to stay away from flipping too much because you just don't want to be caught holding the bag, right? So we've been doing a lot of what we call innovations, where we flip a house without ever buying it. We basically get an agreement with the seller on a price they want, and we kind of actually go in and spend our own money to spruce it up to get top dollar in the market without ever taking the title. And then we sell it, list it on the MLS to sell it for them. And then we kind of make our spread on the back end. So it sounds a little confusing, but basically it's like a flip, but we just never buy it. And I like it because you don't have the risk, right, of taking title to the house and getting caught with the house. Your risk is maybe you spend $8,000 on it and the market crashes, you lose $8,000, but that's better than holding a $300,000 home that's now worth 250, right? So that's kind of what we're pivoting more towards, just to minimize risk, just trying to minimize risk right now, just because we don't know what's going to go on. I wish I could tell you, man, we got all these, we're going to scale up, but it's actually not the time to scale up, in my opinion. So it's kind of being cautious.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great. It's shifting and adjusting to the market cycles, right? Things happen, things change. So you got to kind of adapt. It's not always time to expand. It's not always time to scale and be, bullish. It's sometimes things to just be conservative and tidy things up a little bit, right? And so I feel you there. And innovations are great. It's more of like a kind of a little bit more of an advanced creative strategy. So if you're interested, hit up Adriel, right? He knows what he's doing with innovations. I know a few folks as well. So there's so many ways to buy real estate. It's not just cash or 25% down. There's so many ways to make this happen.
Right.
So so Adriel, for anybody that wants to like connect with you and get in touch, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, either on basically social media, probably the easiest. On Instagram at apartments.adriel. I'm sure it's going to post it actual tag, but that's DM there. I mean, but I do get DMs a lot, so sometimes I don't see it. So if not, probably just to my email. I can share all that with you, right? And that way, really is the easiest way to get in touch with me. Facebook, I don't really use. I only use it to list apartments for rent on Facebook Marketplace because it's free. That's probably one of my best lead sources for getting tenants. But besides that, I don't ever use Facebook. I just use it to find tenants. So don't reach out to me there because my messages are just filled with inquiries like, is this available? Is this available? So I'm going to miss your message. It's just full of marketplace messages. But no, yeah, just reach out on Instagram or via email if you want to connect, and I'll be more than happy to try to help out.
Yeah, for anybody that sold anything on Facebook, I'm pretty sure you just triggered them by saying like, is this available? Is this available? Is this available? So yeah, I feel you there. But I'll be sure to put all that in the notes, so people can just like reach out and find you there. So Adriel, any last thoughts, any parting thoughts before we sign off?
And I just don't believe everything on social media. There's a lot of people that post looking very successful that, you know, are not as successful. Don't try to get caught up comparing. And just normally I would say, you know, just take action, but right now it's kind of not the right market conditions just to go out and buy a flip right away, right? So, but it comes just down to education at this point, because I've heard people say, I'm going to wait till the next crash. I'm going to wait till the next crash. But if you haven't done anything, how are you prepared to know, oh, that's a deal. Oh, I'm going to buy this, right? So just kind of prepare yourself. Let's really get some funds ready. Just get your knowledge up, and then try finding a mentor just to shortcut the timeline. And just, yeah, at the end of the day, though, you have to take action.
Yeah, 100%. And taking
Right.
action doesn't necessarily mean going out and buying a deal, right? Like it could just be
Right.
like getting yourself ready, learning, right? Educating, underwriting deals, getting your money lined up, right? It's just for when the opportunity does come, right? So
Right.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, go out and just buy something today, right? So
Right.
amazing, amazing, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on, dude. This was amazing, and I know so many people are going to get so much value from this. So appreciate
Thank
you,
you,
brother.
Samir, for having me, man.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.